midterm. Yeah. Yeah. I thought I would say a few words about what you should know for this first of our two midterms. I think that studying for the midterm, I think the best way of doing that is to go back, do all the homework assignments, look to make sure that you can now do them. Yeah, the answer keys are posted, so you can check your work that way. Okay? The midterm is very much like the homework assignments. The very same sorts of questions I've asked on the assignments are what will be asked on the midterm. The midterm is one of those things where there's room on the midterm itself to answer, so all you need to bring, besides everything in your head, are pencils. Please bring a couple of those. You might want an eraser too. Right? What should you know? Well, I hope you know the IPA by now. You should know the IPA. You should be able to use it to translate speech into a representation of what's been heard, and you should be able to read the IPA and know what sounds it represents. Are you ready for that? Okay. The IPA you should know. You should know how words are syllabified. So you should remember that little syllabification algorithm that we learned in class. Remember it? It goes, first step, scan through word, find the nuclei of syllables. Those will be vowels usually. Second step, scan back through word, collect up all the consonants that precede each of the nuclei you identified in the first step, up to what the phonotactic constraints allow, and make those consonants onsets. Third step, scan back through the word, look at all of the remaining consonants, and gather as much of those as the phonotactic constraints allow, make those codas. Last step, bundle together nuclei with onsets or codas that follow them. Those will be syllables. Okay? Remember that algorithm. You'll have to know something about what phonotactic constraints are to use it. So you should know how to determine, say for English, what groups of consonants can make good onsets or codas. That's a little bit like what we did in homework assignment 2. Okay? I taught you a very specific one about onsets. I taught you that the biggest group of sounds in an onset in English consists of just 3 phones. And when there are 3 phones, the first is always sa, the second is always pa, ta, or ka, and the third, well, the third depends on what the second is. Remember that. It's in the slides, it's in the lecture notes on syllables. So remember that constraint. Okay? You should know what allophones and phonemes are. That's what we're doing right now. So maybe that'll come into focus better after today. You should know how, when given words from a language you don't know, to deduce which of 2 sounds are phonemes and whether or not 2 sounds are allophones. You should know how to deduce, how to tell for any given pair of sounds whether they're allophones or phonemes. Phonemes, minimal pairs. Allophones, they will be distributed in a way that suggests there's a rule changing one into the other. Okay? You should know about that. You should know the phonological features. And you should know how to use them to write a rule that changes a phoneme into an allophone. It's that sort of thing that we've done in the exercise that's due today. Okay, so these are the things I expect you to know for the midterm. Are there any questions about this? Ma'am?
Will we have a features chart?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Will we have
I don't think everyone could hear.
Will we have a features chart on the exam?
You're asking whether I really expect you to learn the phonological features for the midterm? That is what you're asking, isn't it?
Not really. Kind of. It's like a lot to remember.
I see. So you would like me to put on the midterm a chart?
Yes. Yeah. Could you put the answers too?
You have obviously negotiated prices down in the Middle East. Okay, so how about this? I don't put answers on, but I do put feature charts on. Does that sound? I hesitate to put the feature charts on the midterm because, then human nature being what it is, you won't study those. I fear you won't study those features. And if you don't have some clue as to how the sounds are made, which features go with which sounds, you will find, I can tell you this, you will find that when you confront the allophone phoneme problem I give you on the midterm, you will spend half an hour crying in front of the feature chart, trying to remember, is that a minus or a plus? Okay? So do try to remember. Do study the feature chart. You should know what those features mean, moreover, and that will help you, because if you can kind of figure out what a sound is, how you're making it, once you know what those features mean, you'll be able to just, oh yeah, that's one of those. Okay? So, like, what's coronal mean? What does that feature mean? Okay? It's a lizard sound. There you go. What's strident mean? High hissing sound. What are the strident sounds? It's all reptiles today. Yeah. All the fricatives and affricates, except those that involve your teeth. Those are the strident sounds. Let's see. What else is there? What does anterior mean? Front. So, and how is front measured? Alveolar ridge and forward. Okay, good. So that's the kind of thing you should know. And then when you're like doing these things, you'll say, oh, I've got to figure out what ma and ka and da have in common. Well, I'll just figure out how they're made and then pay attention to the features. Okay? Any questions about this? Did I comply with your request? Okay. She's been asking me this for a few days. I always punish the person that makes me do things. Okay? All right, so we left last time. Thank you for asking. Please don't fill out the teaching evaluations when they come around. Okay. We left last time learning about these phonological features. They're a list of the relevant properties that sounds have, relevant to the kinds of rules that we've been learning, well, in particular rules about turning phonemes into allophones. And as I said last time, gosh, that was a week ago, a lot of those phonological features are the same sorts of things I taught you when I taught you how these sounds were made. Things like voice and nasal and something else. Being a stop or not being a stop. Those are all properties that are encoded in the features. The properties for vowels, for instance, if you look at the feature chart for vowels, they're all just exactly how I described vowels. So we have high, we have low, we have back, we have front. Those are just descriptors of where the body of the tongue is when we produce each of these vowels. We have tense, we have lax, we have rounding of the lips. Those are all the things I taught you were relevant in making vowel sounds, and those are found in the feature chart as well. Some of those familiar features go by slightly different names, and so, yeah, like high, all the high vowels, all the other things that aren't high vowels are minus high. One of the familiar features that goes by a slightly different name is this feature vocalic. Okay? This feature, along with the next one I'll show you, are used to distinguish those two big classes of sounds that I divided the phones into when we first learned them, consonants and vowels. This property is a property vowels alone have. So, If a sound is a vowel, it is plus vocalic. If it is not a vowel, it is minus vocalic. That's what vocalic means. I am a vowel. Consonantal is a property that only consonants can have. So if something is plus consonantal, it is a consonant. Sadly, some consonants are minus consonantal. There are some sounds that lie somewhere between a vowel, they're not really vowels, and a consonant. They're not quite consonants either. These are those sounds. So these are the sounds that are neither consonant, they're minus consonantal, nor are they vowels. They are minus vocalic as well. Okay? So if you're plus consonantal, you're a consonant. If you're plus vocalic, you're a vowel. If you are neither of those things, you are one of these. Okay. I called these approximants or semivowels when I first introduced them. They're sort of somewhere between real consonants and real vowels. All right. Are there any questions about features then? Well, it's using features to express these rules that we've been learning about. That's our main task right now. If I have time today, I'll show you that these features play a role not only in allophonic variation, but also in controlling phonotactic constraints. But first, let's take a look at how features are used to formulate rules that convert phonemes to allophones. As I think somehow this is the hardest task I've asked you to do so far. And so I thought we would do another problem in class, kind of as an exercise, getting you ready for the midterm. Sorry, was that a good sound, or is everyone okay? Should I continue? Yes. Okay. So let's do that. All right. So here's our language. Zokwe. Cool Zokwe. Spoken in Central America. It's got some sounds we don't have. Like here's one. This is za. We've seen it in other languages before. Za, za. It's like a da with a za crammed on its rear. Okay? And it's got this sound here. Sa, sa. It's like a ta with a sa crammed at its end. Sa. These are two affricates. And it's got this fricative that we've seen in German. Ha, ha. A velar voiceless fricative. It's just like ka, but it's not a stop, it's a fricative. Ha. And otherwise, I think the sounds it has are just like English, though where they're found is sometimes odd for English. Like, for instance, here's a glottal stop and here's a glottal stop. So this is cheknakch with a glottal stop and a cha forming a coda. Which kind of hard sound for us to make. And nga shows up in places that it doesn't in English. Miangdamu, ngda, ngda. Kind of a hard sequence in English, but fine in Zokwe. Okay? Zokwe. And here's what I want you to do. So remember, rules control features. They control how combinations of articulations or acoustic effects are combined to make sounds in certain environments. And as a consequence of that, they change one sound into another sometimes, or they change a group of sounds that share some combination of articulation into another group of sounds that differ from the first by some combination of articulations. What I'm asking in this question is to compare these groups of sounds, ga, ba, da, ja, and za, to their voiceless versions. So, Ka is just like ga, except it's voiceless. Pa is just like ba, except it's voiceless. Ta, cha, and sa are just like da, ja, and za, except they're voiceless. Okay. So, question: are all of these pairs drawn from different phonemes? So, is ga a different phoneme from ka, ba from pa, and so on? Or, in Zokwe, is there a rule that converts these guys to these guys, or the other way around? All right, so 2 questions. Do we have pairs of phonemes here, or do we have pairs in an allophonic relationship here? How do we find out if they're first of all, let me ask you, are ga and ka phonemes or allophones in English? Phonemes. Tell me why. Oh, sir.
There's a minimal pair.
Yeah, there's a minimal pair that involves ga and ka. Yes. Do you have one in mind? Gut and cut, indeed. So there's a sign that ga and ka are used to distinguish words. English speakers are aware of the difference in those sounds, and that awareness shows up as an awareness that gut is a different word, sounding different word than cut. Okay? Do we find anything of that sort in Zokwe, insofar as this word list shows us anything about Zokwe? Are there any minimal pairs that contrast ga with ka, or da with ta, or... No. No, right? There are not. Okay, so we ask the simple question, is there evidence that these sounds are drawn from different phonemes? And the answer is no, there's no evidence of that. So now we must ask the harder to answer question, is there evidence that these are allophones? If they are allophones, there will be a rule that picks up one of these classes of sounds and changes them into the other. Okay? So the first thing we could do is ask, well, what would that rule be doing if it existed? For instance, what would be the relevant features that would be picked out, and how would they be changed? Do you see? So let's see if we can ask ourselves, what are the properties, the features, that these groups of sounds have in common? And then, what are the features that make them different? What makes ka different from ga? So first let's ask, these sounds, let's look at these sounds first. What properties do they share that no other sound in Zokwe has? Except, of course, these, the ones that we might be tempted to convert them into or to convert them from. So what properties do these share? Let's start with that. Ma'am? They are voiceless. Very good. What other property? This one right here. Yeah. The right column, I guess. Or, this column over on this side. I don't know. What do they have in common? They are voiceless. That's good. What else? Sir?
Yeah, they're non-nasal.
They're non-nasal. Okay, that's good. They're non-nasal. What else?
Consonantal.
They are consonantal. Good. Okay, let's stop for a moment. Let's see what we have. What we found are these properties. They are, let me see if I can remember them. They're minus nasal, they're minus voice, they're plus consonantal. They're all consonants. That's something that all these guys have. And now let's ask ourselves, what we're trying to do is we're trying to pick out these sounds from all the others that we know Zokwe has. So what other sounds in Zokwe are there that we need to distinguish? Like, for instance, look at cha. Cha is voiceless. It's a consonant, and it's not nasal. So ha has all the properties you've listed that are shared by these sounds, and yet we don't want ha in this list. This isn't in the list of things that we're comparing. So what should we add to the list we've got to get rid of ha? How is ha different from all these sounds? Yeah.
They're produced in the front.
Ha? Ha? Oh, these are all produced in the front?
Yeah.
Okay, so pa is plus anterior, that's right. Ta is plus anterior, also true. It's at the alveolar ridge. These two are at the alveolar ridge too, but what about ka? Actually, what is the difference between ka and ha? That's all that distinguishes them. This one's minus continuant, this one's plus continuant. Is this plus or minus continuant? Minus, just like that one. Is this plus or minus? Minus, just like these two. And these two are minus continuant as well. Affricates are minus continuant. So if we add to the list you came up with minus continuant, we'll still pick out this, but we'll leave out ha, and that's what we want to do. So our list that we have so far is plus consonantal. What was the other one? Minus nasal, minus voice, minus continuant. Okay. I think that does it. So that group of features picks out this set and leaves behind all the others. Tell me now, same thing about this on the right-hand or left-hand column, this column over here. What are the features these guys share that no other sound up here has? Ma'am?
Exactly the same as the other column except for voice.
Yes. These are non-nasal, they are plus consonantal, they are minus continuant, and they are plus voiced. Okay. So re-asking this question in terms of features boils down to this. I want you to compare those sounds that are plus consonantal, minus nasal, minus continuant, and differ only with respect to voicing. One's plus voice, the other's minus voice. Do you see how I got to this point? Okay. And now we ask, well, is there evidence of an allophonic rule here? And to do that, we go through our little procedure. We look to see what are the sounds that can fall on either side of these two groups. And is it ever the case that the list of sounds that fall on one side of one group does never includes nothing in the list of sounds that... Let's ask what comes after these. Okay? You know, it looks easy teaching. It really is very easy. Yeah. What comes after these? The voiced plus consonantal minus continuant non-nasals. Ladies and gentlemen, please tell me.
Vowels.
A bunch of vowels. E, ah, oo, oo. Oh no, that's a song. What else? Anything else? Is it always a vowel? Which vowels? Tell me. E, ah, eh, eh, a. This one? Yeah, a. Okay. A. E. Right? Did we have E? Okay. Those guys. Good. And now let's find out, all right, with the other group, what do we see what do we see following them? The voiceless plus consonantal minus continuant minus nasal sounds. What follows them? A. Ooh. a lot of stuff, but A. And A also follows this group. So we see that it's possible for A to follow the voiceless one, where's that? Here, as well as the voiced one, here. So if there is a rule turning the voiceless ones into the voiced or the other way around, it couldn't be a rule that cares what follows. Because if it did care what follows, it would convert one into the other when an A followed. And we should find only one of them with an A following, therefore. But we don't find that. Clear? We have failed. We start over. What are the sounds that come before the voiced plus consonantal minus continuant minus nasal sounds? Is that a sound or just mulling? N, na, ma, what else? Anything else? Na. And what are the sounds that come before the voiceless plus consonantal minus continuant minus nasal sounds? Silence. Glottal stop. T. Okay. A little honk. Anything else? Is there? Yeah. Schwa, somewhere schwa. Oh, here. Okay. These lists are completely different. So, that's exactly what we would expect if there is a rule that turns one of these into the other because of the sound that comes before. This rule would do exactly what we see. It would make one of these follow anything at all except the group of sounds in which that group turns into the other group. This is what we would expect to find if there were one of these two rules. If the voiceless ones are the phonemes in Zokwe, and they're becoming voiced when one of these sounds comes before. This is one rule. It's a rule that says, well, the voiced ones will be following these sounds and nothing else, and these guys will never follow these guys. That's just what we found. Right? It's easy to get confused at this step. Or it could go the other way around. It could be that the voiced ones are the phonemes, and the rule we've discovered is turning them into voiceless ones when these guys precede. This rule would say just sort of the opposite. It would say these guys are never preceded by these sounds because this rule converts them from voiced to voiceless. We would expect to see these then preceded by this group and these never preceded by that group. And again, that's exactly true. Okay? So now we must figure out how to choose between these two rules. Yes, sir?
I was going to say, when we write rules, do we always have to write 2, 1, and then the number?
I write 2 because that's what the evidence we have in front of us right now demands. There will always be one rule. And now we must take the next step and figure out how, from these two, to pick the right one. Okay? Okay, well, let's do that. So, which is right? The first one. Why?
Because all have something, 2 sets in common.
All have something in common.
They're nasal and plus sonorant.
They're both sonorant, and all of them are both sonorant and nasal. That's true. And that's not true of any of these things. Ha is not nasal or sonorant. Is neither of those things. A, well, I haven't told you whether A is sonorant or not. It's not on the vowel chart. It actually is sonorant, but never mind that. It's certainly not nasal. So as far as you know, it's neither nasal nor sonorant. Ta is neither nasal nor sonorant. Ha is neither nasal nor sonorant. Isn't nasal, and as far as our feature chart says, it's not sonorant either. And this is silence. It has no properties whatsoever. So yeah, that's right. These guys are all nasal and sonorant, and these guys, none of them are. So one way of thinking of what's happening then is the voiceless sounds that are plus consonantal, minus continuant, minus nasal become plus voiced after nasal sonorants. Okay? So this could be the rule. Could this be the rule? If this were the rule, what we'd have to do is just what he did for this first one. We'd have to find the things that this list has in common that not only make them similar, but make them all different from these sounds. The sounds where the rule isn't happening, according to this second hypothesis. Well, what properties do all these things have in common? Some are consonants, some are vowels, some are voiced, some aren't. And that damn thing is nothing at all. It will never have a property that sounds have as well. And so there's no way this could be a rule, because there simply isn't anything similar in these sounds and non-sounds. Do you see that? There's the rule. The plus consonantal, minus nasal, minus continuant, minus voice things, that list of things, when it's preceded by something that's plus nasal, or maybe plus nasal plus sonorant, either one would work, they change their value for voicing from minus to plus when that happens. They become the other group. Ma'am?
So are all vowels assuming their voice sonorant?
All vowels are sonorant. It's a fact, a truth that I have not revealed to you on the feature charts. But it nonetheless is a truth. Isn't it? Are voiceless vowels sonorant? I love doing that. These guys are the experts, by the way. Are we okay? Do you feel like you can do this on the midterm? Some yes, some no. Can you turn me off? Can you unplug the... Yeah, and can you turn on the spots for me? Let's do just one more, okay? Only because I want to use a chalk. This is Ganda. These are words from Ganda. In fact, this is the Ganda word for Ganda, Oluganda. I haven't provided translations, and actually I've lied to you a little bit in here. Ganda has long vowels and also long consonants, and I've just wiped out that difference in my transcriptions here because it doesn't matter. Okay? Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so like Yukira, this thing, Omugole, Emeri. Okay? These are all IPAs. I haven't put them in the brackets. I want you to tell me Ra and La. Allophones or phonemes? Question first. Are they phonemes? Is there any evidence that Ra and La are phonemes? Are there any? What are we looking for? Minimal pairs. Are there any in here? No, there are not. Are Ra and La phonemes or allophones in English? Phonemes. Lick, Rick. Are ra and la allophones? Well, let's find out. Oh, it's big, but it doesn't work very well. Okay. What comes after ra? I can't see this, so you have to tell me. Huh? This thing? This thing? Okay, so far you've said this and this. Oh, is this the vowel? Okay. Ah. You have to get your Bostonian friends on board for that one. What else? Is that all? E. O. Are we done? Have we got them all? Okay. What comes after la? E? This E? We're done. Right? E comes after la. E comes after ra. Same sound comes after ra and la. Couldn't be a rule turning one into the other when E follows, because then you'd only get one of those followed by E and not the other. Okay? So what comes before ra and what comes before la? Wait, there's mumbling. Why? Oh. Before ra, is the mumbling just because you're figuring out what to say to me now, or is there something? Do you have spears too? E? Do you want me to write E? Okay. What else?
The letter D.
Wa? Did I hear wa? Did I not hear wa? La? Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay. What comes before la? Nothing. Ooh.
I have a question.
Yes.
If the first thing we see is silence, can we just stop? Because if that can't be a rule because it has no properties. So
We can't stop. We can conclude that there can't be a rule going from this to this. But we still want to see, we have to have information about what stands here if we're going to formulate a rule going the other way. So we'll still want to know this list. So silence, ooh, what was the other one? O. Ah. Am I done? Is that it? Everyone agrees? Okay. Wonderful. These lists are completely different, right? So this is exactly what we would expect if there is indeed a rule turning one into the other, but based on the kind of sound that comes before. So one way this rule could look is ra is the phoneme and it becomes la when these guys come before it. But you will tell me, no, it could not be that rule, fool, because these things have no properties in common as they include silence, and so there's no way we could pick features that are shared by that list of things. There must then be a rule that goes this way, and now we need to figure out that rule. Can I... Yeah. Gosh. Big chalk, small board. Can I erase these words? Yeah. What will that rule look like? it'll be la goes to ra when, okay, now let's figure out what do these guys have in common that makes them different from the vowels where this rule does not apply, where la stays la. What makes these vowels different from oo and o and ah? Ma'am?
They're front and tense.
They're front. Indeed they are. They are also tense. True enough. So, I have to go to the gym just to use the chalk. Yeah.
Ooh is tense, true.
Oo is also tense. That's true. So if we were just to say this happens when a tense vowel comes before, we would be wrong. But plus front will distinguish oo, which is not plus front, from the tense vowels where it does happen. Actually, if you think about this, you can see that what matters is these being front. Right? So putting plus tense here does no harm, but it does no help either. This could just say plus front. That's the one thing these guys share that none of these vowels have. We're not done though yet. And yes, sir?
Just a question. You're writing like plus front, plus tense.
Yeah.
Could you write like plus feeler, plus
No.
labial, plus the, so
Labial you could, but velar.
where's the limitation?
The limitation is just that feature chart. So that list of features are the ones you can use. Yeah. They are chosen strategically to do the work of choosing between rules that could exist and those that couldn't. Okay? Plus front, plus tense, I've sort of written it here. Now what we need to do is write this part in features too. Okay? So here what we have to do is think. We have to think about what we're doing at this point. So what we're going to write here are those features that make la different from every other sound in Ganda. This part of the rule is doing this. It's like a big hand that's reaching in to the sounds of this language and picking out just those that you want to change. Okay. So here what we need to do is find what makes la different from every other sound in Ganda, not every other sound in the world. Ganda may not have sounds that are on your feature chart. What we know Ganda has are just what we see in front of us, ladies and gentlemen. So what features do la have? Do la have? That no other sound in Ganda has.
Lateral.
Lateral. Actually, as far as your feature chart goes, la is the only sound, lateral, that is plus lateral at all. But for Ganda in particular, it's the only sound that's plus lateral. Wa isn't, ba isn't, ma isn't, da isn't, and so on. Okay? So what we've done now is we've reached in, we found la, and now we have la. Okay? With all of its properties. And now what we must do is write what do you have to do to la to make it ra. Is someone's having trouble breathing? It's you, isn't it? So now what we will do is we will look at ra. Please get out your feature chart. Try to be calm. We will look at ra. We will look at la. We will compare them. And we will write down everything that makes ra different from la. minus lateral. Anything else? We're done. Okay? That's how you do it, right? So I want you to remember when you're doing these problems, those are, when you're translating into features, those are the steps. When you're translating the sounds that are triggering the rule, what you need to do is find what do they have in common that makes them different from the sounds that don't trigger the rule. When you're translating this into features, what you need to do is find those things that the sounds you're changing have in common that no other sound in the language you're looking at has. And when you're translating this into features, you simply write down everything that's different between what you're making and what you're making it from. Good luck on Wednesday.